So as a fitness professional, one of the most common things I hear is, I don't have time. So let me tell you guys something about time. Every single one of you has 168 hours in a week, and I'm only asking for 2.5 hours out of your week. And for what? To live a better life, a healthier life, or even a longer life. These are all benefits that come with exercise. Fitness is a lifestyle. This is not a quick fix. This is something you have to incorporate into your daily regimen, just like brushing your teeth or taking a shower.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me tonight on Real Talk with Jean Price. I'm always excited when everybody chimes in, but I want you to take the time to like, to comment, of course, share, and also subscribe. I forget to say that sometime. I want you to subscribe to Real Talk with Jean Price. We always have great topics, great ideas, and great perspectives on different subjects. And I'm excited even tonight. This topic is going to be really great because it's something that I'm really, really passionate about, but not just the passion of the topic, but the person that's going to be joining me tonight. We always try to find those things that are relevant. And I think tonight's show is going to be really relevant to so many people that are going to be chiming in on tonight. I'm not sure. Are we live? I hope we are live. I see the live in the left corner. Hold on one second. We are live. Okay. I just wanted to make sure we were live. Good evening, Catherine. As always, thank you for joining Real Talk. I am so glad. Listen, if anybody knows, Catherine Summers is a faithful subscriber, and she definitely watches the show almost every week for the whole time that we've been on Real Talk. And Catherine, we want to take this time to thank you for joining us tonight on Real Talk. But I want to bring my guests on because I think this is such a great topic. It's not about being a woman. It's not about being a man. It's about being people. So help me welcome to the show, Dr. Tay Bassett to Real Talk.
Hi, Lady Price. How are you? As always, it's good to be here.
And as always, it's always good to have every time I see you, can I just say this before we get started? Your smile is contagious. She's always smiling every time, no matter what she's going through, no matter what's going on. Dr. Tay always finds a way to brighten up Real Talk. So I just want to again thank you for joining me tonight on Real Talk. I'm ready to dive in. I'm ready to get started. I'm so excited about this topic, running toward wellness. Can you kind of tell us what that's going to be about tonight? Kind of share with us.
It's going to be about running, and it's going to be about wellness.
Well,
and everything in between, and just the journey.
Okay.
The journey of both.
Okay. Love it. Love it. So there are going to be some people that's going to be chiming in, whether they're now or later. Just tell us just a little bit about yourself, and we're going to get it started.
Okay. So hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Tay Bassett. I am a psychologist, professor, pastor, and author, and I'm now a runner. And I'm so glad, as always, to be here with Lady Price and to share with all of you.
Well, I will say this, Dr. Tay, not just because your natural profession, but just because of who you are. You always, when you come to the show, always, and I'm not one of those that puff people up. It's just real. We got to be true and authentic, right? But you always find a way to say something that really meet the people where they are. And I think that's so important, right? Relevance. People they're attracted to relevance, right? They're more like, okay, I can engage with her because she's bringing something that I can relate to. So many people experience stress in their everyday life. How do we deal with stress mentally and physically? How do we deal with it?
Well, I think the first step is recognizing that stress is inevitable. We all experience stress, but we also have to discern the different types of stress. So there's distress and there's eustress. So distress is the stress that we hold in our bodies, the chronic stress, if it's something like the stress of a major accident or things like that. And then you have eustress. Eustress is the good stress. So like the stress leading up to a major event like a graduation or a wedding. So those are positive transitional events, but it's still a degree of stress.
It is.
So there's different types of stress, but we also have to understand the importance of how we respond mentally, emotionally, physically, because if we continue to be stuck in that stressful state, then it becomes chronic stress. And chronic stress, meaning that you stay at that heightened level of stress for extended amount of time, that's when it starts to wreak havoc on the body.
And I was gonna actually, you went exactly where I wanted to go because over time, stress really does do something to you. You know, they say high blood pressure, which is a silent killer. Is that due to stress? Of course, it can be due to what we eat as well. But
Right.
over time, it becomes chronic. So then, how can does anxiety also play a role with stress over time affect our physical body? Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So anxiety and stress, they're not the exact same thing, but they're
Okay.
also not mutually exclusive. So if you think about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and one of the symptoms are anxiety. So they can definitely coexist, and there are, some differences. Like I said, the distress and the eustress. Um, but anxiety, and even with anxiety is also inevitable. Anxiety is a natural emotion that everyone experiences. The thing with anxiety is that life, we should all have a sweet spot of anxiety. And when I say that, I mean not have too much, but not have too little. Because if you have too much anxiety, then you're kind of stuck and you're crippled and you can't function. If you don't have enough anxiety, then you don't have the motivation to function. So you need just enough to function optimally.
Right. So now I suffered with anxiety as a kid, Dr. Tay. Even as an adult, as I was navigating through the PTSD issues in my life, it did take a long time, Dr. Tay, to understand the triggers, understand how to manage it. I remember as a kid, I would wake up in the middle of the night, tell my mom I couldn't breathe. I didn't know at that time, of course, I was so young that I was having
Mhm.
panic attacks. But even
Right.
as an adult, I was just talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago, a family member. She had to go to the hospital in the middle of the night because she was having panic attacks. And
Mhm.
I said, my thing is, what's going on in the mind? Because I feel like the
Mhm.
mind and the body, there's some kind of connection there that causes that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So it could be a number of things with regard to panic disorder,
Right.
anxiety in general. There are different neurotransmitters in the brain that affect how we function. If you have too much, it can cause a problem. If you have too little, it can cause a problem. So with neurotransmitters, it's similar. You have to have a sweet spot, like just enough to function. So there are certain neurotransmitters that are involved in having too much anxiety, or so much anxiety that it leads to something like panic disorder. So it's definitely a biological thing. Like people say, oh, there's something off, or the brain chemistry, it's real. It's a real thing. But also it has to do with the environment. That's called the diathesis stress model. So someone might be predisposed to experience something because of their genetics or whatever's going on inside biologically, physiologically, but you have what's going on in the environment that exacerbates or triggers what they're already predisposed to. So there are a number of things that could cause it.
Right. So how do you manage, Dr. Tay? If I can get a little personal, a little
That's
bit.
all right.
All right. How do you manage? You're a mom. Oh my gosh. You have to me, your job is stressful. And when I say that, I love the fact you help people, but I just don't understand how you manage it all. And do you feel some of those anxieties and those triggers and those things like some of us feel? And I don't feel, I mean, my life is stressful, but how do you manage it? Because you're helping other people manage theirs. How do you manage
Mhm.
yours?
You know, to be honest with you and completely transparent, I first had to realize that I was internalizing the things that I was helping people with. And that's real. Like, in church we'll talk about the transfer of spirits and things like that.
Oh,
When you tend to become what you're around if you're not careful. So I realized there was one particular instance. I had a student come in, and everything heavy happens at about 4:30, especially on a Friday, right? Like when you're about to clock out and be done for the weekend.
right.
So this one student, I was scheduled to see her, and when she came in at about 3:30 on a Friday, she literally dumped over 10 years of trauma into my lap in a matter of 2.5 hours. So helped her, and literally when I was done, she'd gone. I sat at my computer and I could not write the note. And I'm just staring at the computer. So I'm like, okay, let me go talk to someone. I know it's after hours. It was after we closed, but a couple of my colleagues were there. And when I opened the door, it was like, like if someone, like there's some kind of smoke or whatever, you open the door, it all billows out. That's
Yes.
how I felt. I was just like, I was stuck. And then that weekend, like a couple of events happened and like something really innocuous. Like my mom wanted me to move my car because I was blocking her in. And I looked at my phone and I saw the text and I knew I had to do it and I couldn't get out of bed. I was just like, she'll find my spare keys. If she's watching, sorry, Mom. Um, but like there was something that was just preventing me. And then afterwards, like a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, I realized like, wow, I internalized what I was helping my student with. And I didn't dump it. I didn't process it. I didn't speak about it with anyone. Like my supervisor had already left. So I was stuck with it. And that's why I was responding in that way. So I think it was that situation that made me realize you have you have to manage your stuff, but you also have to manage the stuff that you help other people manage
Yes.
because eventually it's going to get too heavy and you're going to stop functioning very much like I did. So I had to realize the importance of managing my stuff and help and managing the stuff because we think, oh, we hear it and we keep on going, we see client after client after client, but it affects us.
Yes.
That's as a mental health professional.
Yeah.
That's in ministry. Depending
Yes.
on the job you have, if you have any kind of front facing, people facing job, customer service, there's always that person in the line who's going through something and
Mhm.
they tell you their life story. You carry that with you when you go home. So it's really important to recognize the weight of what we do as, providing when we provide a service, but also recognize that it's important to release that weight.
Yeah. So let's bring what you said because that was so good. Let's talk running into wellness. So
Mhm.
how do we run into wellness mentally then? Like that was so good what you said because as a pastor, you're right. We carry and I'm very sensitive to certain things that people bring to me because of what
Me
I've
too.
gone through, right? So
Yes.
my sensitivity antenna is risen, but then how do we run into wellness? Like wellness is what?
Mhm.
Wellness is well-being. It's how do we run into that?
I
You know?
think the first word that comes to my mind is intentional. We have to be intentional about it. A glass does not fill itself. Someone has to put the glass under the faucet and actually get filled. So we have to be intentional about being well and also recognize that wellness is multifaceted. So wellness isn't just physiological, wellness isn't just mental, it's not just emotional. It's not just spiritual, it's all of those things because as a person really well, if one of those things is missing, think about it. You can be well physically fit, running marathons and all of that, but if you're not well mentally, can you really say that you're well? So being intentional about it and recognizing that your wellness is multifaceted and there are a lot of different things that you can and should do in order to maintain or improve your wellness.
Yeah, because the first thing I thought about Dr. Tay as the topic tonight, running into wellness, the first thing I thought was physically. I'm like, okay, this is going to be great because Dr. Tay is in shape. You know, she knows what she has to do. And I'm like, well, how come I don't get out there and just run and walk? But you're so correct. It has to start here too. Because even when you made a conscious decision that you were going to
Mhm.
do what you needed to do physically because you look amazing, it started
Mhm.
here. It
Yeah.
started here, right?
Mhm.
It started with you making that decision, putting forth the effort. It started here. But why is this? I know it's a struggle physically, but why is this such a struggle? It is so hard sometimes when I deal with people emotionally. Because that's wellness. You
Mhm.
wanted to be made whole, right? There was one that was healed, but then come on, but I mean, it was 10 that was healed, but one that was made whole. That's the difference. So
Mhm.
how do we fix that?
I think I think my answer is going to be the same. Being intentional and recognizing that you need to be made whole.
Yeah.
There, even in ministry, I'm sure you see it. There's so many people who are walking around broken, functioning fragmented, and they don't know it. They wonder why. Like it feels like everything is against me, or it feels like I'm functioning under this glass ceiling, not realizing that they created it.
Mm,
So we have to first realize that we need to be made whole. that
Yeah.
we need to be made well. And you said it starts up here. You're
Yeah.
right, but I think what triggered it, what triggered it was what was going on in my body. And when I said that enough was enough, that's when I decided up here to
Okay.
adjust what was going on in my body. So, like you said, the mind body connection, it's all connected. It
Yeah.
got to the point where, and people have said, oh, well, it's not about what's on the scale. Correct. But in some people, a lot of people, that number that's on the scale represents something that's internal, something deeper,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's realized that, how else am I going to get my A1C down?
Mm-hmm.
How else am I going to get my blood pressure stabilized?
Mm-hmm.
I need to lose the weight. I need to not just lose the weight, but change how I'm eating and doing all of those things. But I had to make the decision first.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it takes us being in a difficult situation and deciding that enough is enough to do it. And that's what happened to me. I saw the scale and my doctor was like, so what are we gonna do? I'm like, I'll let you know, I'll get back to you.
So how long did it
No.
take you on that journey to get where you are today? Because I mean, you see the result. We all see the results. You look. I'm not just saying that. You look amazing, but
Thank
I
you.
know everybody's time schedule to get to that place is different. But how long did it take
Mhm.
you?
So it's been a journey. I decided to start changing my eating habits in March of 2021. And I had these lofty goals, but life lifed and I allowed it to life. So
Oh,
that's why I'm still on the journey. But
okay.
um, so it's been a little over 2 years, but in that frame of time, I not only lost 65 pounds, but I wait, 65, I want to make sure I have the math right. Yes, 65.
Oh,
65 pounds. But my A1C has normalized. My
ah,
blood pressure is trending down. And like this last leg of my journey is to get to a certain weight so that I'm completely off of my blood pressure medication. Like
okay.
that's going to be my birthday gift to myself. I've decided that.
Okay.
So my A1C is normalized, my blood pressure is trending down, and I've actually been able to run. And running is something that I've always like wanted to do. I did it as a kid. I didn't do it well because I didn't know what I was doing. But um, I've tried like doing a 5K before, and after 3 weeks, I would stop. I would give up because my body was hurting, but my body wasn't prepared to run. And I'm not saying that you have to be like a stellar athlete in order to run, but you have to make sure that you're putting in the right things,
All right. All right.
supplements, food, but you also have to be
Yes.
right up here. And I wasn't committed to the process. So those are the reasons why I gave up. But because I was able to lose the weight and I'm in better shape, I think I was better equipped to stay the course. And I've been running since February now.
So the word that came to me as you were talking was procrastination. There's so many of us that procrastinate. And I love what you were saying because I can start it, right, Dr. Tay? And somewhere
Mhm.
I lose momentum. So I have
Yeah.
procrastination and momentum. Then they're partners and they can't seem to separate. I don't know what it is with me. And I feel so good when I'm doing it. Like I come up the stairs now, I'm like, oh, really? Really? My knees hurt. Why does most of the time, Dr. Tay, there are those of us that get off the journey? Though I know somewhere down there, the journey is going to be so good for me to be on. And we could talk about this naturally and spiritually too, you know? But
Mm,
talk right, we talk about physically. I get on that journey and I always get off. And I'm so disappointed in myself from the physical perspective because I know I need it.
hmm hmm I think even though we know what our end goal is,
Mhm.
somewhere along the way we lose sight of it. So that doesn't mean that we no longer recognize the power or the goodness of the goal, but we might have a weak moment, or not weak because that's the negative connotation, but we might have a moment where we just lose sight
Yeah.
and we stay in that. I have a coach and she said it we have to continuously
Mm,
commit.
okay. Okay.
So it's not like, okay, you know what? I decided I'm going to run and it's that decision is going to carry you for decades. No, you have to wake up every morning and decide that I'm going to run. Why? Because of XYZ, whatever your
Right.
goal is, whatever your why is. But we have to recommit daily, sometimes hourly, to our why. We got to commit to our why, and it has to be a continuous process.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. I love that. Okay, let's go a little further. How do you see your life as being a role model for other people? No, Dr. Tay, I'm not kidding you. You really are a role model. You're a role
I
model.
appreciate
Like
that.
I said, your story. I don't know if anybody read your book yet, but your story is huge. So that's why I'm so glad we mentioned running into wellness or running into wellness. It's not just physical. It's that journey that we are all on. And I guess I feel like I'm in another journey and part of my life. So I feel like I really am running into a different kind of wellness. Because I feel like I'm more of a mentor in this season. I'm more of a midwife in this season. I'm trying to help women as much as I can in wellness. How do you see yourself in the scheme of running into wellness from a mentorship perspective?
You've used those very scary words before, and I think I had a very similar reaction. Um, I, you know what, they people say that we're our own worst critic, and we don't it takes others to see what's inside of us sometimes, and I think that's the case here. I've never really seen myself as a role model or a mentor. Like, somebody actually referred to me as their mentor. I was just like, I ain't co-sign that, but whatever. And it was a client, so I'm like, okay, let's reframe this relationship. But I think the word that I would use to describe myself is an advocate.
Oh, I actually like that. Okay.
I
That's
see
good.
myself as an advocate because
Right.
advocates speak up.
Yes.
They
Yes.
speak up about the things they're passionate about.
Yes.
And that's how I see myself, and as an advocate for mental health,
Yeah.
now physical wellness. And it's not that, forgetting those things that are behind us. I press toward the mark. Like, I'm
Yes.
not saying that I've achieved everything. I'm not self-actualized, but the things that I've experienced, the things that I've gone through, if I can share them with someone else and that helped them on their journey, then I've become an advocate
Yeah.
and used whatever platform I have to help someone else.
Can I tell you that is a good word? Because I was thinking as you were talking at the tape for those that are silent and they can't speak.
Mm,
There's some
so
people
good.
that are ashamed to speak,
Hmm.
afraid
Yeah.
to speak. That was really good. See, guys, this is what I said. I'm going to take a commercial break, but before I take this break, this is what I try to tell people. You don't understand. You have to start coming on the Real Talk because Dr. Tate always drops. Did you hear what she said about the glass? It takes someone else to fill that glass, that whole thing that she said. That's the Dr. Tate I'm talking about. But we'll be right back after this commercial break.
So, as a fitness professional, one of the most common things I hear is, I don't have time. So let me tell you guys something about time. Every single one of you has 168 hours in a week, and I'm only asking for 2.5 hours out of your week. And for what? To live a better life, a healthier life, or even a longer life. These are all benefits that come with exercise. Fitness is a lifestyle. This is not a quick fix. This is something you have to incorporate into your daily regimen, just like brushing your teeth or taking a shower.
Welcome back to Real Talk with Jean Price. I am here with one of my favorite people, Dr. Tate, and we've been having a great discussion talking about running into wellness. Physically, we're talking about emotionally, and listen, spiritually even can be brought into this as well. Dr. Tate, welcome back to Real Talk with Jean Price. All right, we might be having a little technical difficulty and she'll be back on. But before we went to commercial break. Oh, there she is. Welcome back, Dr. Tay. Before we went to break, you mentioned that you saw yourself more of an advocate than a mentor. So I just wanted to look up that word for myself because I wanted to just see it. And I can see what you're saying. And it's a person who publicly supports or recommends. You really do support those that you work with. Even when you came I had the opportunity of Dr. Tay coming to our church and speaking to our women, and they were blessed to the point we've already talked about having Dr. Tay come back. So I want to go back, Dr. Tay. Let's talk about nutrition.
Mhm.
How does nutrition play a crucial role in weight loss?
It's important. Like what we put in,
Mhm.
yes, it comes out, but there's certain things that stay. And everything in moderation, that's what's said, right? So we have to be mindful of what we're putting in, how we're putting it in, and
Yes.
the activities that we're doing to make sure that elimination is on point, but also so that we're burning the calories. And it's not just about, okay, I have to, yes, you have to be in a calorie deficit in order to lose weight, like that's science, right? But we want to make sure that what we're putting in is going to help us to sustain. So
Mhm.
that's one thing that I've realized, like as when I started on my running journey, one of the things that I researched was, what should I be eating before I run? So it's not just about, okay, don't eat junk food, but there's certain types of things like fish, like white fish and leafy greens, that are going to give you the energy that you need. So we need to be super mindful of what we put inside, not simply for weight loss, but so that we can function.
Right, right.
Because you can eat a lot of things that have a lot of calories. You can eat a whole lot of honey buns, but then still feel sluggish
Absolutely.
because of what's in it.
Yeah. So then what do you do when you want something sweet?
There are alternatives.
Oh,
So be mindful of alternatives. Like one thing that I noticed, I so I did an eating plan, and that's what kind of started me on my weight loss.
okay.
And it required me to use stevia. And I'm just like, I want the real thing because like that's an aftertaste. But I realized that I've made it work for me. So there's like flavored stevia drops, let's say. And stevia is it's a naturally occurring sugar and it's calorie free. So, like, I like my coffee, and when I go to Starbucks, I get one of those orders that you don't want to order in person because it's like a whole lot of stuff and it's embarrassing. Yeah, that was me. So, what I did was find flavored stevia. So I'll get the chocolate flavored or the vanilla flavored, and that's what I sweeten my coffee with. And
Oh,
even something simple like that, it will help to cure my sweet tooth. But also, I have to know my body.
okay.
When is it that I'm craving sweets? Also, am I going to be able, like, if I just take 15 minutes,
Right,
15 minutes, do I really want it? If
right.
I don't want it in 15 minutes, then I didn't really want it. Maybe it was a mental thing.
I
So
understand.
just being mindful of those things. And sometimes you just want something sweet. And
Right,
sometimes you can just have it. It's
right.
about balance. It's
And
about
that's
balance.
the issue, Dr. Tay. I don't know how to balance these either. Sometimes I can be very extreme. That's it. I swing all the way to the left or I'm swinging to the right. I don't know how to balance eating the one cookie. I didn't have any and now I'm craving. So then I have 5 and 6 and 7. So I don't
Mhm,
know how to find that balance. And I struggle with that. It
mhm.
really is a huge struggle. I'm not exaggerating.
It's tough. And I think that it starts in the mind. It's not just, oh, my body is craving it. It starts in the mind. Be
Okay.
ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So how
Okay.
are you going to transform your body if the
Mm,
word says that the transformation starts up here?
yeah.
Yes. Ooh,
That was
good
good.
Lord. That
Preach. That'll preach, Dr. Tay. I'm trying to give you a little hint. That'll preach. Let me know
that
when
was really good.
you're doing that sermon. Let me know.
You're a mess. But think about it.
Yes.
Like we have to make the decision. And sometimes, yeah, we're gonna eat the box of cookies,
Right.
especially Girl Scout cookie time come. Ooh,
Thin
child.
mint. Oh yeah, thin mints for me. But go
But
ahead.
we it's the Samoas, and the Samoas probably have like the highest because of the coconut and the caramel and all of that.
Yes. Yeah.
But we have to make the decision. And yes, sometimes we'll eat the whole box, but we have to use wisdom and
Mhm.
balance. So the 80-20 rule, if you follow that, and that's just, one approach to wellness, eat clean 80% of the time, the other 20%, no, eat clean 80% of the time, and the other 20%, you can dibble and dabble a little bit. But
Okay.
realize that if you ate the whole box of cookies, that's your whole 20%. You know what I mean? So it's about balance. It's not always about restricting.
Yeah, yeah. Tammy, Martha, and Catherine have chimed in, and Tammy just wrote, "Girl Scout cookies is her weakness." Listen, those that are in the show, I want you to write. Listen, Dr. Tay's here to give us all some good help on this journey. Write something in that chat so she can give us some help. And I'm so glad that you said that because I tend to. I know there's the 80-20 rule, but I don't. I
Mhm.
never see that in the part of the equation. and I need to kind of recalculate my equation a little bit more. So even okay, so you said it starts in the mind. How, but isn't after 30 days, doesn't it become a habit?
So I actually mentioned that in my book in the introduction
Yes.
because there's, this information floating around that it takes 21 days to form a habit. But
Mm,
that's actually a misinterpretation
okay.
of research, of the
Okay.
results of research. So how long it takes a person to form a habit, there are a lot of other factors that go into it. Sure, it could take 21 days. It depends on what it is. It depends on the other factors, the mental factors, the physical factors. So there's so many things that
Right.
go into it. Um, but yeah, you have to first decide. Anything that we do, the brain is the most important organ next to the heart because this is the computer. This is the motherboard.
Right.
The
Right.
CPU isn't going to function without the motherboard. So the decisions, they have to start up
Mhm.
here. We have to decide what we're going to do before we actually do it. Like the brain is going to send the message to the limbs. And so my brain sent the message to my hand that said, put the Samoas in my mouth, right?
Right. Right. Exactly.
But we control it.
Right, right, right. And that goes to like in your profession, Dr. Tay, eating disorders, whether that's somebody that's eating less, right, or doesn't eat a lot, or somebody that eats a whole lot. Like I'm a kind of person, not anymore, but when I was stressed, I'm not an eater. I can go hours, 24. I'm being honest, like I won't even have an appetite to eat. I'm like, no, I'm not hungry. And then there's my husband who will see if stressed, he just eats and eats and eats. So that's interesting.
Mhm.
Tammy has a question on the table for you. How do you calculate while you are eating the cookies and can't stop? I'm serious. Do I have a deficiency? That's what she's asking. So how do we calculate that while you're eating the cookies and can't stop?
That is a great question.
That is a great
So
question,
if
Tammy.
you realize that you can't stop, even when it's not Lay's, I might be dating myself. What's it, Lay's? Once you pop, you can't stop, or was that Pringles? Whatever. So if you realize that you're eating something and you
Mhm.
just can't stop, take a step back and
Mm,
assess your behavior. Why is it that I can't stop? Like
right.
some foods, you could be craving something that's healthy. But if you're eating, again, everything in moderation, if you're eating too much of it, is there something in your body that's intrinsically craving it because there's a deficiency?
Wow. Wow.
So, like, you might be craving certain foods because you're deficient in, say, magnesium or vitamin D.
That is
It's
such a
possible.
good point.
So, and even though they're cookies, there's a degree of vitamins. Maybe that's it. And I'm not saying eat the whole box
Yeah.
because that's gonna up your vitamin D. But but it could be emotional. Why can't I stop?
Mm.
Maybe the feeling of
Oh,
fullness is curing the emotional voids that I have. So that's why I keep eating. Maybe the sweetness of the sugar is temporarily spiking, let's say, your serotonin because, that's a happy chemical or your dopamine.
right. Right. And
Maybe
I'm sorry.
that could be it too.
Right, right. Shalana even chimed in. Tammy says she's wearing her cookies now. Literally, she said that. Tammy, thank you for
Sis, I hear you.
and Tammy, you're really talking to all of us. We got you on that one. Shalana chimed in and said she realized she's an emotional eater. Because that's what I was going to ask you, Dr. Tate. If we're
Mhm.
doing that physically, could that be a representation of something else like we're like that in other areas of our life? You know what I'm saying? Thank you, Shalana. That was good.
So, and I didn't realize how much of an emotional eater I was until I got on, this strict eating plan.
Okay.
And I realized that I was more inclined to cheat when I was stressed. So, and that's one of the great things. Like, yes, I lost the weight, and you can see the collarbone and everything. That's great. But one of the things that I loved about the journey, or loved about, is that I learned about myself. So
Okay.
I learned it's just like, oh, I'm not just eating to eat. I'm eating because I'm stressed. I eat more. Like today, I was just like, why do I want chocolate thins? I'm in CVS looking for like chocolate Teddy Grahams. Like, sis, you haven't had those in years. Why you want them now?
Right, right.
I was just literally just in CVS and I was just like, wait, good thing you couldn't find them, but you're stressed because someone is sending spam email under your name. Like, silly things like that, right? So we have to be mindful of ourselves. Once we're able to take that inventory of ourselves, that's when we can really make impactful change.
Interesting.
So so me controlling my eating made me realize that yeah, you are a stress eater. You're an emotional eater. What are you going to do about it, sis?
Yeah.
Are
You
you
know,
going to continue to do it, or are you going to make a change?
right. To the audience, Dr. Tate said something that was so powerful. And I hope you guys write something in the chat about this because you said until we really recognize, and I, of course, made my own words, recognizing ourselves and like what's going on within us. When we look in that mirror, that's basically what Dr. Tate's talking about, like how you see yourself or what you're doing and what's causing us to eat like that. Dr. Tate, that right there is a whole nother show by itself because I think
Mhm.
sometimes how we see ourselves is also sometimes not good.
Mm,
Sometimes we eat because what we see we don't like. Mm.
mhm, mhm.
Okay, Lordy mercy, that was a lot. Thank you for saying that. No, really, and
Mhm.
I think my audience appreciates you saying that. Wow,
It's true though.
wow,
Like we don't like what we see. We don't like what, and that might sound counterintuitive. Like you don't like what you see, so you eat more. Yeah,
yeah,
because food can be a source of comfort. That emotional eating, it's
right.
comfort food. Why do we call it comfort food? Because it's heavy, and it sticks to your bones, and it makes you feel warm, and makes you feel better, and it distracts you from what's going on. Right? So yeah, we'll eat. And it's not just about food, right? Because again, wellness is multifaceted.
Right,
Sometimes we will engage in activities and relationships because we don't, as a distraction from what we see in the mirror,
right. Wow.
physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally.
But I remember you saying something on one of the shows, and of course I'm paraphrasing. Until we face that reality, it really doesn't go anywhere. No matter how much
Hmm.
we ask it, and I've shared even on different platforms, whatever the case may be, years ago, how at the time years ago, I'm telling my age when weaves came out. Dr. Tay, we used to do our own weaves. I don't know if you remember. This is like years ago, but I used to always have a different hairstyle, always changing my clothes. And one day I had to be true and authentic and understand I wasn't doing it for any other reason but because of how I saw myself.
Hmm.
And sometimes the way we see ourselves, we want other people to see something different until you recognize who you really are. I
Right.
absolutely adore and love myself now, but not that I'm perfect. What I'm saying is, I love the me in my skin, but it took
Hmm.
some time to get there. So, like you're saying with the eating, and Tammy said, Tammy said, don't even talk about that mirror. Don't talk about it. But I'm gonna have Dr. Tay talk about it, Tammy, just for a few minutes. Dr. Tay, talk about that mirror.
You know what? The mirror, I'll say this. We
Mhm.
like when we go to the family reunion, we
Uh-huh.
can tell who gained weight and who didn't, right?
Yes.
We can see these things because
Yes.
we're not with them on a daily basis. But when it's ourselves, it's very
Mhm.
different. So it's like you're looking in the mirror every day. I didn't realize that I had gained 40 pounds plus during the pandemic
Mhm. Mhm.
because I was seeing myself. I didn't see the change because it was a gradual
Yeah.
progression. But sometimes it takes for someone to say, I think that's a little tight. Those same jeans you were wearing before the pandemic, but they don't fit now.
I
But
can't.
then, or maybe it just takes something of a switch to flip when you do look in the mirror and you're like, wow. Or Facebook memories, right? Pictures from years ago. You're like, ooh, I could see my neck in that picture. I can't see my neck now. So sometimes it's not just the mirror.
Mm.
Sometimes it's the comparison. Sometimes it's a comment, and sometimes it might be nice. Sometimes it might not be. It's a comment from someone else. And I might have said it on this platform before. One of the prayers I pray is, God, be the mirror in which I see myself. And I know I'm transitioning from the physical, the natural to the spiritual,
Beautiful though.
but that doesn't just have to be spiritual. Like,
Right.
yes, God, show me if I have an attitude, or show me if I'm not appreciative, I'm not grateful, but that can be the physical too, because God is the
Yeah.
God of everything, right? So if there's something that I need to change in my eating habits, show me, because we don't know everything. Sometimes we don't realize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So sometimes we need that transformational moment to realize, hey, I need to make a change. Sometimes it takes a negative report from the doctor to show us that we need to make a change. It's not just the mirror, because
Agree.
we don't always see it.
That is so good. Oh, see, this is what I'm saying, Dr. Tate. That was so good. Guys, write something in the chat about Dr. Tate, what she just said, because you know what? That is true. No, really. Sometimes it's not just the mirror. That is so good. It could be those comments. You are so right. You're so right. Because negative comments become, you know what I'm thinking about? Triggers, right?
Mm,
If you're struggling in that area, a negative comment can be the trigger to set you back.
yep,
And then,
absolutely.
and then it comes up to how do you make yourself back from the negative comment? Then you go to the behavior that you had to get you to the place that you are. So it's just such a vicious cycle, no matter how you
It's
look.
all connected. It's
Okay.
all connected.
Mhm.
Our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors, they're all connected.
Dr.
All
Tate,
connected. So if you can tweak one area, you can potentially change all other three. But we first have to take the inventory. Sometimes we don't know what to change.
wow.
It's like,
So
oh, I know I need to change my eating habits, but I
right.
don't know what to stop eating because we just don't know. We have to do the research. We have to talk to our doctor, things like that.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask a question, but I'm going to tell you what Tammy said, but I have a question for you before we close. Tammy said, I think it has to be spiritually related to learn to love ourselves the way God has created us. That's so good. Now it's up to us to accept and stay healthy like. And you're right, Tammy. And I
Mhm.
wanted to say to you, Dr. Tay, the word that came to me was strategy. Is there
Mm,
strategy in your book? And for those of you that don't have her book, you can contact me. I actually bought some copies, but also you can call Dr. Tay, get her book. It's great. I thought about strategy. Do you have a strategy to help women that with this subject that we're talking about? Is there a strategy or a plan that people can follow?
that is a good question, and it's funny. And it's not just for women, but women can relate because I'll tell you in a minute. So I was in my kitchen, I was doing dishes or something, and
Mm,
the children, for once, went to bed on time. So I was just like, I should be using this time of quiet to like study or whatever. And
mm,
but then it was like the devil and the angel on the shoulder, like, okay, but you need to wash these dishes because you don't want to wake up to them in the morning. And in
mhm.
that moment, God gave me such great revelation, and He was just like, "Are you being Mary or Martha?" Ooh,
Oh, okay.
the
Mm,
way that slayed me. And I was like, I'm washing dishes, but I'm listening to the download. And basically, and I always forgive me, who was at Jesus' feet? It was Mary, right?
Mary.
Okay. We have to ask ourselves, and this is the strategy, going back to your question, this is the strategy. We have to look at ourselves and assess if we are Mary or are we Martha. And if we're Martha, assess why. Some of us are busy, 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 going, 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 doing, doing, doing because we're seeking validation. Some of us are busy, 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 doing, 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 going, going, going because we don't know anything else, because we saw our parents or our single parent going, going, going. So that's all we know. Sometimes we become workaholics because we are addressing an emotional void, or we don't want to sit still. We're afraid to sit still because we're afraid of what we might hear God say, or we're afraid of what our thoughts or what memories might come up. So if you are busy and going, 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 and you don't know where to start, you have to, why? We have to go back and think about the why. Why are we doing this? Why are we engaging in that behavior? And that's your strategy. Ask yourself why. And if you're having difficulty, ask God why. Ask Him to help you.
Right.
Ask some of your friends or your accountability partners why. What situations do you see me behaving this way? What situations do you see me driving to Chick-fil-A? Knowing it's 10 miles away. Like,
Mm,
like sometimes we need those people who are honest with us. But we have to first assess, why do we keep doing it? For most of us, there's a function. There's
yeah.
a reason. We might not be able to identify it right away, but there's a function. There's a reason
Yeah.
why we're doing it.
Well, I would say this to my viewing audience. Dr. Tay, you just gave a whole strategy. No, really, that was really, 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 really good. And for those that are watching tonight, whether you're watching now or you write in the chat or in the playback, that's a great strategy to assessing yourself and where you are. And even Tammy, thank you, Tammy. And it's interesting. Shalana wrote, "The commercials are the devil."
Aren't
Shalana,
they though?
they are, Shalana, yes. But you know what, Dr. Tay, that was a great strategy. And I want to tell my viewing audience, you want to join us once a month because Dr. Tay is always bringing something to the table. And next month, I want you to come ready to eat because this was nothing. She only gave us the appetizer. Next month, trust me, she's bringing the entree and the dessert carry you through for the next month after that. But I want to thank you all for joining me tonight on Real Talk with Gene Price. Dr. Tay, we have about 30 seconds. Can you just give us one last thought before we close out?
Take the time to assess yourself.
Wow.
Take that. Sometimes we just need to take the time to look in the mirror, and we'll get the answers.
Yeah.
But
And
we keep avoiding it.
and Tammy wrote, will you be? She said, yes, we'll be there. Remember what Dr. Tay said. Are you Mary or are you Martha? We'll see you next month on Real Talk. I'll be here next week. Dr. Tay will be here next month. See you then. Good night.
So, as a fitness professional, one of the most common things I hear is, I don't have time. So let me tell you guys something about time. Every single one of you has 168 hours in a week, and I'm only asking for 2.5 hours out of your week. And for what? To live a better life, a healthier life, or even a longer life. These are all benefits that come with exercise. Fitness is a lifestyle. This is not a quick fix. This is something you have to incorporate into your daily regimen, just like brushing your teeth,